the next session coming on up, and the good news is we're getting back on track with time, so thank you to our speakers and to each and every one of you for being back on time. We're moving on right now, and our next session is how best OOH integrates into a brand's multi-channel marketing strategy. So starting his career with P&G and Coca-Cola, over the last 30 years, he has been the global CEO of Maxis, CEO of Group M South Asia and Mindshare South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, walking on the stage, Group CEO of Madison Media and OOH, Mr. Vikram Sakhuja. We heard some cheering. We want you to bring it on. Welcome, sir. All yours.
A very good afternoon, everybody. Okay, you know, it's like this. A media planner, or for that matter, a marketer's life has become incredibly complex these days. There's got about 1,000 things which they have to divide their budgets over, and OOH is one of them, right? So now, how can OOH best integrate into this multi-channel strategy? Starting point is that it is pretty much a zero-sum game, and it's a question of allocating budgets and how does out-of-home get the best share. You know, but that said, there's always something to be said about the power of an idea. And in this particular case, we've got what? We've got a car which is actually going to be launched, which has got a great boot space. And what better than an idea like this, which is actually telling you that it can actually take in all the luggage. So when ideas like this come in, budgets come afresh. So this is a disclaimer, and obviously we've seen this all the time. But that said, the main game is going to be how do we actually get a share of the AdX. Now, I don't think you're going to see this chart very often, but ever since I started working, so it probably gives you an idea of how old I am, I've been trying to capture the AdX. So this is from 85 to 2022. And the one which is of note to us is the orange line here, which is out of home, which shows, you can see that it's been 6% for most of the years. Maybe it's gone up to 8 or 9. And then, of course, unfortunately, in the pandemic, it went down to 2. And now we are again moving back to about 4. They've been dramatic. Actually, it's been relatively flattish, slightly down, but relatively flattish. If you have to look at print, which has really come diving down, and TV has also now showing some signs of share coming down over the last few years. This is actually a telling statement. I've also given the same number excluding digital. So excluding digital, we are actually at that 7%. Now, when I walked in this morning, people are talking the 10% number. We've also been hearing Amanda say between 5 and 15. Now, the reality is that if you are at about 4 today, and if you can move to 7 of the entire AdX, and mind you, the AdX was 90,000 crores in 2022. We expect it to be about over 1 lakh in this year. So if you've got about 7 to 8% of that, that's a good 8,000 crores. We could be doubling it in pretty much 1 year. Now, how do we get there is what really I'm going to be talking about. So on this particular scene, what I've taken is the same AdX. The first one is, it just tells you the major categories which contribute to this 90,000 crore AdX. So FMCGs are about 31%, e-commerce is 13%, and so on and so forth. Now, OOH, on the other hand, if I just take a look at the entire 4,000 odd crores of OOH that we get, these are basically they're about FMCG, education, the entire real estate and the home improvement area, the entire retail, fashion, jewelry piece, entertainment, auto, BFSI. These are the ones which make up about 85% of the entire category. I've also given in the third column what is the share of the total AdX that OOH contributes by category. So in some, like for example, real estate, it's wonderfully indexed at 21%. And also there are numbers where there are a number of other ones where also it's higher than 10 to 12%. But in two very big ones, which is FMCG and e-commerce, we're still terribly under-indexed. E-commerce especially is only about 1%, and FMCG, because it's so large, it's a large chunk of out-of-home, but it's actually only 3%. So the question that really comes up is, what do we really need to do to up the space? So let's just first start by, asking the question that there are some people who are believers, and then there are other people who are not that great believers in out-of-home. The ones who are believers truly see the impact, the size, and the entire mass visibility. And Shashank and Amanda both made allusions to that. But the guys who don't, and this is really the trend which is happening, e-commerce is especially sort of cognizant of that, they're very high into precision. They like targeting. They don't like that much spillover. There are some people who actually like spillover, but people who want actual precision. So whether it's a Netflix who's telling you just outside the gate when you're going to be boarding that you don't need to nap because you can just download, because now Netflix is free, and actually watch the 2 hours of flight, you can watch your content. Or a Bajaj bike which can actually say, here's a QR code, scan it and go in and actually get your deal. These are all reasonably precision-based targeting. So the very, very first piece is, if it is FMCG and e-commerce that you are trying to see how to make inroads into, maybe don't talk the same impact, scale, visibility game, maybe talk the precision game. The sweet spot of all out-of-home is launches. Launches, this is the time when brands really want to come in and announce that we are here. And it's almost like, when I was a kid, it used to be the circus comes to town. In those days, there used to be Raymond Circus, Gemini Circus, and all those circuses, when they would come to town, you couldn't miss it. And there would be a full parade, there would be outdoors all over the place, and you couldn't miss it. It was an announcement. In today's environment, pretty much the people who want to use outdoor are using it really to announce, and that's a really, really big thing. But the fact is that there are why is it that everybody doesn't have out-of-home in their launch plan? Look, when you got about a 30, 35 crore, 40 crore launch budget for a car, to spend 2, 3, 4 crores on outdoor is actually feasible. But when you got about a 7, 10 crore FMCG launch budget, or for that matter, even entertainment, and entertainment spends big, by the way, on outdoor, it suddenly requires a slightly different lens to look at the entire thing. One is you have to lower the entire cost. And this is where a good hack is frequency is the new impact. So, you don't always need to take maybe the largest, the 120 by 120s that we have now, or the absolutely big spectaculars, but you can also try to dominate smaller mediums. In this particular case, for a client, we actually just took up the trolleys at the Mumbai airport, and that got a huge amount of visibility. The entire domination of bus shelters is another way of doing it. But the fact remains that choose your environment and try to dominate it with a lower cost becomes one. And the other one, which I don't see us doing that much, is it's a competitive game. It's a zero-sum game. Try seeing whether you can replace other mediums in a launch. Print is one such. Look, digital, the entire Googles and YouTubes and Metas have done a very aggressive job of trying to actually make a case of being a very viable alternative to both print and TV. And their entire sales pitch is one of a competitive thing that use us rather than that, because this is how we can work better. I think in the context of a launch, which is very, very local, and you have expensive print media, maybe 2 inserts are happening for a launch, for a similar amount of money, you can actually give a pretty impactful plan for maybe 15 days. So there are certain ways in which you need to look at the total launch budget, and you have a very good chance of actually finding out-of-home playing a bigger role in more launches. The third one, it's always mystified me a little bit to see that I think about 2/3 of the entire out-of-home spends are happening in the top 5, 6 metros. It reminds me of the 90s when print, for some reason, everybody used to spend inordinate amount of money on English print. And despite 85% of the eyeballs, readership happening in the regional markets, regional language papers, and so on and so forth. Now, the reality today is that, it's come up in one of the questions also earlier asked to Shashank, Tier 2, 3 towns, the smaller, in fact, the hinterland, that is also a huge growth market. That's where the population lies. But for some reason, we have very few campaigns that are really going into those 200 towns and so on and so forth. Now, two things I think are required there. One, I think, is the entire, I think some amount of business development needs to be done, and education needs to be done for marketers sitting in their metro offices about what the landscape of the tier 2, 3 towns is. We all know that they're no longer the dusty towns they used to be 10, 15, 20 years back. There's a huge amount of sort of advancement which has happened there. And for actually pretty low costs, relatively lower costs, you can actually have a very impactful plan in those towns. The other aspect about, as you go into the further hinterland, semi-rural as they say, or even the smaller towns, there is a huge role, and this is the slide which I have here, of the kind of properties that we picked up for Asian Paints Tractor Ace, which is their brand offering for the lower market, for the developing market. And that's really how the business development is happening, by taking a bunch of stuff. Digital wall painting is allowing you such superior quality stuff at pretty affordable prices in the smallest of towns, as are all the other ones that I've actually mentioned here. So I think this is a third opportunity. And the fourth one, and now this one is a little bit difficult, degree of difficult 3.8 on 4. But I think it's where the big money is. How can OOH become a more integral part of the reach and frequency plans that all these bread and butter these always-on brands do? What I've got here is essentially there is one chart, axis which says wastage, or how, so the one on the extreme left would be the ones where it is very, very local. The one on the y-axis is the cost per thousand impressions of reaching those people. And the size of the ball is the reach that you have of that particular medium. So you have, if you have to look at it, print is getting in the thousands and plus when it comes to cost per thousand impressions. You have, this is a Delhi market, by the way, I've taken. So, in a Delhi market, if I have to take any of these mass media, which is on the right-hand side, all your, the so-called TV channels, Z Cinemas and Star Pluses of this world, just if I have to take a metro market launch, so if you have to focus on those brands which have got metro presence, or maybe 20 metros, 6 metros, whatever, but not mass India presence. In those, from a CPM basis, TV becomes very inefficient. The ones on the left are all your OTT plays, as well as, the OTT plays actually work out reasonably well. They work out in the range of about 150 to 250 CPMs, cost per thousand. CPM is cost per thousand. So you have reasonable reach. YouTube probably is the biggest one out there. Now, on this, I've right now superimposed the kind of cost per thousand impressions that you're getting with outdoor. Now here, and basically I put, these are plans. So I've taken the number of sites which I've taken in a particular plan, and then I've taken the CPM of that entire plan. It's by a city, but you could say, roughly it's a average 20 by 10. Now, Bombay, I think, is a little bit on the higher side. Bombay will be probably closer to a 40 by 40, because here I've taken at a plan level. Now, these CPMs are actually pretty competitive. You have really, really premium sites going at 600, 700 CPM, but an overall plan is going anything from 35, 40 CPM to something like maybe 130, 140. Like, I don't know how many people in this is a pretty evolved hall sitting out here. I don't know how many of you guys are aware of what the cost per 1,000 impressions of outdoor is. And if you have to take a look at reach, now reach is somewhere which becomes a bit dodgy. I think Amanda's presentation takes on huge importance because we've calculated reach for a few of our clients, but I think there is still a lot more to be done before we get total credibility in the reach number. Impressions, I think, is still slightly better. But the reach, of course, we know qualitatively is very, very good in this medium. You have a here and now, and I know for mass brands that have to go all India, urban, rural, outdoor as part of a reach and frequency plan, it can't come in every maintenance campaign. But for those brands which have got just say a coverage of 6 towns, 10 towns, 12 towns, you actually have a very, very plausible and credible way of getting into the media plans at a very integral level. So what have I said today? I've said for categories not using OOH, try precision targeting using digital out of home. Also try to lower the entire cost of your, so make it as precise as you can. You saw how digital has now taken 38% of the overall addicts. In the slide of Canada that came up, it was well above 60%. If out of home does not play the digital game, we are going to sort of really, really miss out. Yes, there'll always be place for the reservation scale media, the way we sell it. But today, a large amount, the digital inventory is not that big. It is big in maybe malls and airports. In malls and airports, there's a huge opportunity to do precision targeting. But even right now, the way kind of selling that you're doing is still to the outdoor agencies pretty much on the same way as you sell static. If you were selling it in the programmatic stack to the digital agencies, the opportunity to actually grow that using precision targeting could be much, much more. Second point is fit OOH to fit all launch budgets. You should be aware of all the launches coming up. You can target print. You have a viable story against print. And sometimes choose frequency over impact. You might be able to sell better. And I think, again, because digital out of home allows you to take slots rather than always on advertising, you can actually limit the outlays with a good digital out of home plan as well. Take out of home plans deeper beyond the metros. Educate the entire market on tier 2, 3 landscape, and also in both in terms of how the landscape is in terms of inventory available, and secondly, by creating the unconventional the out of home that is there to offer in those markets. And not the least, especially for those brands where actually you have a very tight kind of market, 6, 8, 12 markets, the main metro markets, and a large number of your, to take e-commerce, a large number of your e-commerce startups are actually starting from the top metros and then going deeper into smaller towns. You can actually make a reach, frequency, cost per 1,000 kind of play in which you're as comparable with the best of the media. Now, if all of this has to happen, it, I think, requires 2 enablers. I think I've been maybe part of these kind of summits. I don't come that often to the OAC summits, probably my second or third over the years. But measurement is something that we've said for I don't know how many donkey's years. I'm glad to see that certain things have moved in that direction. But I know the IOAA was doing a very, very good job in coming out with an industry currency on measurement, reach, frequency, impressions. I don't know where exactly. I think I saw some energy about a year or so back. But in the last year, again, somehow the tempo seems to have died down. That really needs to come up. And if we can take a leaf out of the Canadian book, I think we'll be much the better for it. The second one, if you noticed, a large part, in fact, the entire title is how to make OOH work in a multi-channel world. By definition, it requires a better handshake between the media and the out-of-home agency. Currently, even the network agencies, they are pretty much still working in silos. You need to actually work with the brand teams who are actually managing all the plans. And I think you, as an out-of-home fraternity, we need to be equally invested in understanding the other aspects of the other channels, so to see where our actually out-of-home can come in. If we can do some of these, you know, it's a very interesting time that we are in. Traditional media, as we speak, the relevance of TV is being questioned. The TV, the big behemoth TV, is right now being questioned. Print, of course, has been questioned for a while, and we've seen it's struggling and it's holding, but it's still under some kind of pressure. Outdoor is the one which actually has withstood the test of time, and I'm so bullish about it. I think if some of these things we can embrace, for what 4%, we can take it up to 7, we can take it up to 10, and we can take it up beyond. And I wish you all the best in that endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here today. And we've got question time happening. So I'm going to invite onto stage Mr. Aman Nanda, Chief Strategy Officer at Times Innovative Media. He's right here. 3 questions, sir. You've had to choose them really quickly and join us on stage. So you're going to answer them and then choose one lucky winner. So that's all yours now.
Sure. Good afternoon. Thanks, Vikram. Lovely, insightful presentation. Thanks for sharing a very detailed roadmap for out-of-home industry on how do we increase our market share, which you are right, we've been trying for many years. And as usual, your inputs were extremely pinpointed and grounded for us to implement. So thanks a lot. We have lots of interesting questions. I was finding it hard to concentrate on the presentation and choosing the right questions. We have 50 questions that people have asked, so I'll probably ask the organizers to share with you separately because all of them were very interesting. The 3 that I have selected, the first one is from Mohit Gupta from Bharti Airtel. His question is, with marketing spends being driven towards mid to bottom funnel KPIs, how does out-of-home media, especially in India, reorient to move from impact or saliency building to driving consideration and preference?
Okay, I think this is a very important question. The question really is, the focus these days is happening to mid to bottom funnel, and in outdoor, which is all about impact and salience, where does that really come in? I think it's a very good question, and it's actually the genesis of this. When the startups came in, the startups were all digital and e-commerce, online based, and they introduced this word called performance marketing, where you actually come in and say that I can actually reach out to a person in the market through search and Perfmax and all these kind of things, and actually drive my sales through that. But I think marketers, and this is actually a question more for marketers than agencies and publishers, marketers have to realize that brand building is all about forming a psychological equity for your brand, which actually gets them to command a premium. Now, brand building or top of the funnel is all about building a brand so that you can command a premium for it. Performance, on the other hand, is driven more towards discounting. So I think the marketers have to realize that if they have to grow a profitable business, salience is important. Of course, you have to manage both. But even I completely agree with Mohit, who's asked the question. I think the focus has gone more into performance. I think it needs to again get dialed back a little bit more into the top of the funnel piece. And I think you'll be able to build bigger brands and, importantly, command a premium. So, but this is marketers have to address this question. You're from Bharti Airtel. I think you'd be in the best position to answer that.
Okay, thanks. The second one is from Dev Karthik Agarwal, Weiler Private Limited. His question is, since you being an expert in media planning and helping brands, how do you identify the most suitable channel within the multiple channel marketing mix to complement and amplify the impact of out-of-home?
Just repeat the part of the question again.
How do you identify
Yeah.
the most suitable channel within the multiple channel marketing world to complement and amplify the impact of out of home? So if you have to select and suggest to a brand why they should look at out of home, how would you choose and select and amplify in his marketing strategy?
Okay. Okay, the way I would look at it is, let's take different mediums. Each medium has a certain core element to it. The power of TV lies because of audiovisual in emotion, drama, and you can actually tell stories, and the entire TV has grown because of storytelling with emotion and drama. Radio has been a companion medium. So you are there and it's like a friend talking to you, and you can actually, so it helps from a frequency standpoint, but it's also a companion medium. Digital, I would say, is much more of an interactive performance medium, and interactive because almost all the rest of them are broadcast. Communication, by definition of communication, is a two-way loop. Most mediums don't do the two-way loop. Digital allows you, by definition, to do. Social media does exactly that. Anything has interactivity. So I think interactivity is the core of what digital is. I think print and outdoor are the ones which are impact and announcement. So I would say that's why I also looked at substitutability of impact and outdoor, of press and outdoor when I was giving you the launch example. So I would say the substitutability is a little bit relatively between a print and an outdoor, and the complementing part is going to be with the others, especially a TV. I think a TV and outdoor would complement themselves pretty well together. So if you want to do a multimedia campaign, I see an ad on TV and I go outside and see a hoarding or a shelter or whatever else, I think the synapse is going to happen that much better.
Thank you, sir. And the last one is from Richa at Times OOH. And the question is, you are an expert in OOH globally.
Sorry,
if you are a global out-of-home expert, if you had to, if there had to be a Times Square in India, where do you foresee it to be?
How do you expect me to answer that? Look, for anybody who's actually that's a toughie. I mean, my office wasn't, when I was in New York for a couple of years, my office was a couple of blocks, 4 blocks, 5 blocks from Times Square. And basically the place evolved there. You had Times Square is a place which is with the theater circuit, it's all there, Broadway, off-Broadway, everything happens there. It became the tourist center, and one thing led to the other, and it just became a larger-than-life thing. If you have to look at the Las Vegas Strip, that is pretty much similar, because, it comes in and you see people coming there, and when people come there, then around that, the entire mela comes. So it's going to really be, if you have to find a place in India to have another Times Square, the precursor to that is, which is going to be the place which is just going to attract people by the hordes. And there has to be some point of attraction out there for what people are coming for. At one point in time, I could have said it could have been Connaught Place in Delhi. No longer. It could be Cyber Hub today. But it's actually, I would say India is still a little bit of a transient society. In Bombay, for example, if I have to see, Nariman Point could have been the thing, but now no longer. BKC probably more. Now it's moving further more into maybe the Andheri side. So I don't know. I'm not an expert to answer that. All I can say is that if we can actually build, BKC actually, to my mind, is right now looking like the signs of having a place which can actually become a Times Square, if you ask me. But that is here and now. It may change in 5 years.
Thank you very much.
So once again, what are the 3 questions?
So the Times Square, OOH, KPI, and the multi-channel marketing how do you select OOH in the multi-channel marketing mix?
Okay, so let's give it to the one which says the one, how does the out of home complement itself with other media? Let's give it to that one.
Yeah. So
question number 2.
The question number 2, Deepak Karthik Agarwal.
We've got Karthik Agarwal joining us on stage. We always enjoy the big smile that accompanies you while you walk on. Congratulations, right here. 3 questions get asked, and one of those walks away with 10,000 rupees right here, walking on the stage. Karthik, congratulations. He's got the calm winning smile, right? Everybody put your hands together. Let's congratulate him. Thanks so much to Alak Advertising and Publicity. And of course, we've got the memento coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, thanking our speaker for this session right here, doing us the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nanda presenting this to Mr. Sakhuja. Thank you very much, gentlemen.